Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk. Now they say there's a thin line between love and hate. Well, I kind of wanted to use that cliche saying because there's a really thin line between men's and ladies' watches today. And this is what this episode is about. As you can see, I brought a lot of shiny things today, lots of blinged out watches. I have a Royal Oak Tuxedo, full diamonds. I have an RM16 Piguet with rubies. I have a goldie but a goodie, a Rolex Daytona in yellow gold. And I also have a few Frank Mueller double mystery pieces. Now, how does this fit into the overall theme? Well, let me explain. What you're looking at first is you're looking at the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Tuxedo. It's a limited edition of 500 pieces. It is a 41 millimeter watch, and this indeed is a men's watch. Now, you're gonna ask yourself, how is this a men's watch? This is a fully diamonded out watch. It looks a heck of a lot like a lady's watch to me, Roman. Well, indeed, this is actually a men's watch. And the reason this is a men's watch is because it's a 41 millimeter. Now, they actually made this watch in two versions. They made it in a 37 and a 41 millimeter, his and hers. What do ladies actually prefer to wear? Well, this is what this episode is all about. Ladies nowadays prefer to wear men's watches, and the reason for that is indeed the size. At 41 millimeters, this was meant to be a men's watch. However, I've sold both the 37 millimeter and the 41 millimeter watch. While the 37 millimeter version is readily available, you can get out there, pick it up, buy it, no problem. The 41 millimeter version, good luck finding it. And the reason for that is because girls actually bought the 41 millimeter for themselves rather than wearing the 37 millimeter. Why? Because the look is bigger, bulkier. And therefore, what you're finding nowadays is a thin line between men's and ladies' watches. Ladies are wearing men's watches. Case in point, I brought an oldie but a goodie. I brought a yellow gold Daytona with me. Why did I show this watch? This is definitely a men's watch, a sporty men's watch at that. But guess what? I have sold in the last few years more Daytonas to girls than I have to guys because, again, of the size. The Daytona is 40 millimeters. It's meant for a guy. It always was. However, guess what? Ladies are now wearing Daytonas as well. Of course, I have to be honest, the number one selling Daytona for the ladies is actually the rose gold version. I just don't happen to have one in stock right now, so I brought out this yellow gold one. This is actually a vintage piece, designed at Movement, but that's all I have to show at the moment. Moving on, I'm gonna show you an RM16. Now, the RM16 is, again, a men's watch. Richard Mille made the RM16 for men, but they also outfitted them with precious stones. This one happens to be the rose gold ruby version. Let me show you a quick close-up of that. Now, I'm going to use the Royal Oak 41 millimeter for reference, and I'll show you why in a minute. Now, this is a humongous watch. This can be big for even some guys. However, girls prefer to wear these watches. Now, let me show you a comparison of the Royal Oak as well as this RM16. So if you thought the 41 millimeter Royal Oak was big, look at the size of the RM16. And just to put it in perspective, let me throw the Daytona on there because that's really a good measure for everyone that's familiar with watches. So here's your RM16, your 41 millimeter Royal Oak Tuxedo, and your Daytona. See the size differences? Now, just to jump back for a second, I actually brought an Omega Constellation with me. A watch that everyone should be familiar. This is an iconic piece from Omega. Everybody knows what a Constellation looks like. Let me show you this guy. Now, of course, at a first glance, you can't really tell how small this piece is, but this is definitely a lady's piece. No men will wear this watch. It's way too small. Let me put it in perspective for you. A Royal Oak Tuxedo, Omega Constellation. Now, 10 out of 10 people will tell me that the watch on the left is obviously the lady's watch and the watch on the right could also be a lady's watch, but size-wise is definitely a men's watch. Last but not least, I'm going to show you the Frank Mueller Double Mystery. Now, if you guys are familiar with the history of Double Mystery a while back, Cartier came out with quote-unquote mystery clocks that sort of look like that. And there was really not a big mystery. What it looked like is as if the hands were floating in midair, and as they were moving, there was no foreseeable way why these hands were moving. You couldn't really tell what's driving them, where's the movement, what's going on. They're suspended in midair and they're showing time. Well, the trick was actually really simple. What it was is it was two clear discs that would turn, and in turn the hands were attached to those discs and the moon was hidden within the body of the clock. The double mystery has been around for years. It's been around for as long as I've been in the business. That's 15 years. Now let me show you this beautiful watch. This is a 42 millimeter behemoth. Now you'll notice in the center are the two discs. Now obviously there's really no mystery behind this particular watch because you can actually see the discs that move the little markers that show the hours and the minutes of the watch. Beautifully executed piece. You got diamonds on the side. This particular version happens to be the multi-gemstone version. But this watch also comes in a full diamond version, both regular diamonds and Piguet diamonds. It also comes in red, which is the ruby version, green, the emerald version, and blue, the sapphire version. Personally, green is probably my favorite version of them all. Happens to be my birthday when I was born in May. Now, how is this a ladies' watch? It's humongous. Let's compare it to the Daytona for a second. Look at the size difference. This is a 42 millimeter behemoth. It's a thicker watch than the Daytona. And the Daytona is truly a men's watch. And how is this a ladies' watch? Well, guess what? Indeed, when this watch first came out, it was not meant to be a ladies' watch. It was meant to be a men's watch. Yes, men do wear diamond watches. It's not rocket science. In fact, I'm wearing one right now, and I'll show you a close-up of that later. However, I have never, ever sold this watch to a male that I know of. Every single one of these I've sold, and I've sold probably hundreds of them over the years, has always gone to a girl. Girls love the big bulky look. And I mean, just look at this watch. How is this a men's watch, right? That's what you're gonna ask yourself. Indeed it is. But nevertheless, only females, at least the ones that I sold these watches to, wear these particular pieces. I have yet to see a male wear this particular watch. And even though I like diamond watches, I would not put this on because to me, this screams ladies' watch. Now, before I conclude this episode, I actually wanted to show you a current edition of a ladies' Royal Oak. I happen to have one handy right here. Look at that. This is a newer version of the ladies' Royal Oak. And what makes it newer is obviously not the design. The design has been the same since the 70s, but it's the size. This is a 37 millimeter Royal Oak on a bracelet for ladies. And let me again throw the other Royal Oak up just for comparison. Here's the men's Tuxedo on the right, and here's the ladies' Royal Oak in 37 millimeters. By the way, the ladies' Tuxedo comes in exactly this size, but on a strap. Now, if you follow the history of Royal Oaks, you'll know that original Royal Oaks that came out for ladies were tiny. They were like a 26 millimeter, 27 millimeter, and they were the size of a penny. And then they slowly but surely started making those watches a bit bigger, and the latest was a 33 millimeter Royal Oak, which looks exactly like this, but just smaller in size. And then over the last, I guess it was about 3 years ago, I believe, they introduced the 37 millimeter models because they recognize the need in the market for bigger ladies pieces. Because listen, the guys that are out there designing these watches, they have their finger on the market pretty well as well. And they see what females and males are wearing alike. So they said, listen, we got to start making bigger watches. Otherwise, we're going to lose the crowd. And indeed they did. The 37 millimeter is a decent size watch for a lady. And yet it's still not enough. You still have girls wearing men's Royal Oaks, such as this Tuxedo, stainless steel Royal Oaks, such as this one. And sometimes I've even seen ladies wearing the 42 millimeter offshores, which is pretty nuts, but it looks really, really cool. So the question that I'm being asked by girls all the time when they come in and they're looking for a watch, they say, I want something hip, I want something happening, I want something really, really cool, I want something in a nice size. Until this day, I still have to tell them that, look, the market hasn't quite caught up. There's still not a whole lot of options out there for you if you want a nice size, large watch. So odds are you may have to go to a men's watch if you want that big, bulky, cool look. What's selling the best right now? Well, the Daytona, believe it or not, is still the #1 men's watch bought for ladies, both in stainless steel, rose gold, and yellow gold, such as this one. Ladies are wearing men's Royal Oaks, such as this Tuxedo. As I mentioned earlier, the Frank Mueller double mystery, even though Frank Mueller is not exactly the hottest thing on the market today, I mean, you see a bunch of memes being made up on Instagram about Mueller making fun of the brand overall. Guess what? This is still a great seller. Case in point, this thing retails for $96,000 and it still sells for 50 grand. You take any other Frank Mueller that retails for 90,000, you can pick it up pennies on a dollar today, like the complicated Perpetual calendars and so on and so forth. There is no secondary market for that, with the exception of these guys. And rightfully so. I mean, it's beautiful watches. Look at some of the variations. I'll show you a couple that I actually happen to have on my desk. Look at the beautiful job that Frank Mueller has done with these pieces. Look at that. It's just gorgeous. So going back to what I said, there is a thin line between men's and ladies' watches in the market today, but yet companies are still slow catching on to that. And I think it's only a matter of time where most watches will become unisex. As far as I'm concerned, this men's Tuxedo is unisex. As far as I'm concerned, the Frank Mueller is unisex. The Daytona is unisex, and so is this RM16. Obviously, the little Omega Constellation is still a ladies' piece, unless there's a really, really small guy with a really, really small wrist that wants to put this on, which I've seen happen, by the way. But again, that line is slowly but surely disappearing because the trends on the market are bigger and better. And it's no longer just for men. That craze started about 10 years ago, which is why the Offshore is so super duper popular at this point, which is why Panerai is making huge watches, which is why Richard Mille is making big watches. But again, the market has not caught up for the ladies, but it's doing it slowly but surely. So if you're a lady and you're out there looking for a watch, don't be shy to look at the men's lines, because this is what's hip, this is what's in now, and there's really no issue with a woman wearing a men's watch. Last but not least, I mentioned that I like diamond watches myself. Well, let me show you what's on my wrist. This is a 39mm Royal Oak Chrono, one of the older models, full pavé. Obviously, this is all factory, so don't ask. And this happens to be one of my favorite watches to wear, especially in the summertime. When the sun shines, this thing shines bright, and I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels on the wrist. And guess what? Another one of those unisex watches. I've sold these watches to ladies before, and do I feel shy or bad that this might be a girl's watch that I'm wearing? Absolutely not, because again, there's a thin line between men's watches and ladies' watches. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me on this episode. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channels, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time for more watch reviews and other videos.